Yesterday, we marked World Diabetes Day, not just with statistics, but with the powerful personal stories behind them. South Africa is facing what experts are calling a diabetes pandemic, with cases soaring alarmingly among young people. But beyond the headlines, how are individuals navigating this reality every day? Today, we are changing the narrative by speaking to the young people who are living it. We're joined in the studio by Noluthando Ngubeni, who lives with type 1 diabetes, and via Zoom we have Siyabonga Zuma, a diabetes advocate who's been managing his type 1 since 2008. Their mission is to demystify the condition, shatter stigmas, and share what it truly means to build a full life while managing the condition. Welcome to you both. Noluthando, allow me to start off with you. Appreciate your time. Now, just walk us through that journey, those moments when you were diagnosed with diabetes.
So I was studying actually 3 years ago, and I got really ill. Out of nowhere, I was losing extreme weight, was really thirsty, and I just couldn't explain it. And by the persistence of my amazing grandmother, I was taken to the hospital. I had blood tests done, and I found out that I was diabetic, well, type 1 diabetic. So yeah, it was a tough thing to go through. It was a huge change to navigate, but I've made it so far.
Siyabonga, I'm going to ask you the same question. You're an advocate of diabetes. What was your experience in the initial moments when you discovered you had diabetes? I mean, you're both very, very young, so it's almost one of those things that you think is not going to happen to me, at least not at this stage in my life.
Thank you for having me this morning. I was first introduced to type 1 diabetes through my sister, who was diagnosed in 2007. And 7 months later, in 2008, I was also diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I didn't know anything about diabetes as much as my sister had diabetes because there was little to no awareness about it. I was at school one day and I fell ill. My teacher called my parents and my sister took me to the hospital. And I was almost diagnosed with flu, and then another doctor walked in and said, "No, these are diabetes symptoms." And then they checked my sugar levels, and yeah, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes from then.
Now, let's talk about your journey over the last couple of years since discovery of diabetes. What have you had to change? I mean, what is the information that was available to you? In that moment, did you think, sheesh, my life is over?
I did. But I was one of the few people who are lucky to go into private hospitals. So I had a diabetic educator with me from the moment I woke up from the hospital to explain what I was going through and what I was going to have to change and how to check my glucose and other things that are available to me as a diabetic. So my insulin and how I calculate my insulin with my food. So the main thing I had to change was, number one, my eating habits. So my lifestyle had to take a shift from I have a sweet tooth, I won't lie. So I had to shift that to decrease the amount of sugar that I put into my body so that I don't have to take too much insulin. And I also had to start getting more active, going to the gym, taking walks, because how my body reacts to insulin is also dependent on how active I am. So yeah, it's just my lifestyle and how I eat and all that.
Siyabonga, a year after your sister was diagnosed with diabetes, you obviously discover the fact that you had it too. Now, much of it suggests that diabetes is hereditary. You know, it's if your mom has it or your father has it, then it's likely that you're going to have it. How's this changed your outlook on the conversations? I mean, as an advocate, what sort of conversations are you having with people about early detection, if you will, or prevention? I mean, just how much information has been made available to you that you've been sharing in your walk as an advocate?
So firstly, I like to distinguish the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes because I find that we tend to refer to diabetes as in a holistic approach, that it's the same thing, when it is not the same thing. And I think I'd like to blame that on the fact that there's little to no awareness about diabetes. You mentioned it being an hereditary thing, and yes, there is that factor. However, in my case, to my knowledge, it wasn't something that I got through from my parents because they never had diabetes. But however, as I said, we should distinguish the difference between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, because there's this thing that diabetes is a disease for the elderly. So I grew up asking myself, how did I get a disease for the elderly? And it was quite hard for me to come out living with diabetes to my peers, which made my life a living hell.
Noluthando, you're a content creator.
I'm trying to be.
So you're obviously putting out information out
Yes.
there. So let's talk about how you package your life. What are the messages that you're sending out to your followers, hundreds and thousands that are looking for information, or whom you are creating content for?
So I try to make it as simple as possible so that you don't bombard people with information. Because like Siyabonga said, diabetes is a huge thing, and it's an umbrella, and there's so many other forms of diabetes underneath. So my main focus was type 1 because that's the one I live with, and I felt like that was the one that didn't get as much attention as the others do, like type 2 and gestational diabetes. So as simple as possible, make it fun, make it colorful, make videos where I show people how I change my sensor or I change my insulin cartridges, so that I can get people thinking and asking questions as to, okay, so what is this for? What does it do? What does it help you with? And even when I prick my finger, I used to post that as well to show, okay, I prick my finger, this is what my glucose looks like. If it's too high, what am I going to do about it? If it's too low, what am I going to do about it as well? Because having high sugar and low sugar, the treatment for that is completely different. And I still find that people see that, oh, your sugar's low, do you want more insulin? No, I need sugar. And you get people who are like, oh, but you're diabetic, you shouldn't be eating sugar. And it's like, I still need sugar to keep myself alive.
Siyabonga, my next question to you is about how you live life and what it is that people around you need to be aware of. One of the things with people that have any number of conditions is they want to be treated as normally as possible. They want to be treated like the next person. But what is it that those people in your circle need to know in order to better assist you in case of an emergency?
Firstly, I'd like to comment on what Noluthando said about needing sugar sometimes, because as I said, type 1 and type 2 diabetes is not the same. To prevent type 2 diabetes, because it is preventable, you must avoid sugar intake and change your lifestyle. However, for type 1 diabetes, it's completely different. I sometimes need sugar, and I wish people in my circle knew that sometimes when I have a hypo, which is my sugar levels being low, I have to eat something with sugar, because sometimes you'll find people asking you, why are you eating something with sugar when you're living with diabetes? And I actually need sugar. And I'd like to make an example about a story I had from a man I know. He told me that he passed out one day in a car park, and people thought he was drunk, and they put him in the back of a van, waiting for him to wake up, only to find he was experiencing a hypo. He could have fell into a coma, or even worse, pass away. So I just wish people around us know more about the condition. And as a diabetes advocate, that is our responsibility to speak about this condition so that people know more about it, who may not get the privilege of being exposed to knowledge from certain areas.
Siyabonga, growing up, there were people that I went to school with, right, that had various conditions, and they'd wear a bracelet around their wrist. And this bracelet carried that sort of information. Because, forgive these individuals that misdiagnose, they're obviously not medical experts, right? So the misdiagnosed, they try and assist a person, but without information, and because he'd passed out, it becomes very difficult. Is there anything that an individual such as yourself, who potentially is at risk of passing out, would carry on their person that says to those around them, hey guys, this is my condition and this is how you might need to deal with me in case of an emergency?
So as you mentioned, yeah, I grew up wearing that bracelet. It had information that I'm living with type 1 diabetes. So in case I do pass out, I'd want people to know that I have diabetes. However, growing up, I found that peer pressure also played a role, because I ended up not telling people that I'm living with diabetes. I kept it a secret because I didn't want people to know that I'm living with the disease for the elderly, which is a stigma. So I ended up not wearing the bracelets anymore. only 3 years ago when I started the diabetes advocacy journey, I then made another bracelet because I was starting to embrace it. So I would say that's the only way. If you're not someone who goes around speaking about diabetes, at least have something on yourself to let people know. Otherwise, I currently don't have a bracelet, but wherever I go, I don't announce it, but people just will know that I have diabetes. Also, because I have what we call a freestyle libre on it's a CGM. So people see this on my arm sometimes and ask me, what's that for? And I tell them, no, it's actually to check my sugar levels. So that's another way people can spot us. And I'm quite glad at the Diabetes Summit this week, South African Advocacy handed over the CGM to the Department of Health for it to be easily accessible to children.
Fantastic. Noluthando, I'm going to put you on the spot and talk about hopefully this incident doesn't happen to you.
Yeah.
But in the event that you're in a medical emergency and are unable to tell people what's going on, how would people know?
So I, like Siyabonga, used to have a bracelet as well. It broke, so I'm not wearing it currently. But because I'm so open and loud, and I do not shy away from the fact that I'm a person living with type 1 diabetes, I think it's easy for people to know about it. And just like Siyabonga, I also wear a sensor on my arm. So it's usually very visible, especially now in summer where you wear short sleeves.
Yeah.
So first thing that people see, it's a conversation starter in a sense. Because people are like, okay, what are you wearing? What does it do? And I explain that, no, it's linked to my cell phone. It tells me when my sugar's high, low, and wherever I am. And if I'm high, it sends me an alarm. If I'm low, it also gives me an alarm.
If your sugar is low?
Yes. Okay. Whether I'm high or low, it will give me an alarm to let me know where I am, and then I'll take the necessary precautions. So, yeah.
Okay, to wrap up the conversation, Noluthando, to start off with you, let's talk about what gives you hope. I mean, what has this experience of living with diabetes taught you that potentially you never would have learned?
Life can be lived to the fullest, regardless of what you're going through. And the fact that we are now having more open conversations about living with diabetes gives me hope that, we will decrease the amount of people that get diagnosed. We will get more people who take precautions to make sure that they are healthy and taken care of. And hopefully the government will come to the party and we can get the awareness that we need to help the people that we need, not only in private sector, but in government hospitals as well, because I feel like that is where we're lacking mainly. So.
Siyabonga, for you, it's been 17 years with diabetes. What has this experience taught you?
So I always say there's a good in every bad and there's a bad in every good. And in this case, the good I found in the bad of being diagnosed with diabetes is that I found myself as a young, responsible man. I became responsible at a very young age. Yes, I did go off track at my adolescent stages, but for example, when you're living with diabetes, you have to have a certain time to take your insulin. So that can go a long way in your life to teach you how to be a responsible adult. And also just being able to be vulnerable. It taught me how to be vulnerable because I can now speak to people about almost anything. And it taught me how to be empathetic when listening to people who may be suffering from other illnesses aside from diabetes.
Siyabonga Zuma, thanks so much for coming onto the show. Appreciate your time. Noluthando Ngubeni as well, content creator, 2 young people speaking to us on the day after World Diabetes Day and walking us through how they live life and certainly the strength and the challenges that they've had to overcome.